At the will reading, my parents gave my sister $10 million and told me to go earn my own. Then Grandpa's lawyer stood up and read a secret he kept just for me. My mom started screaming. I hadn't seen my grandparents in 3 years. Not because I didn't want to, but because my sister Melissa told me they'd moved to a nursing home that didn't allow visitors due to COVID restrictions. She said it was too upsetting for them to see people through glass. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Turns out they were at the ranch house the whole time. The same house where I spent every summer as a kid helping Grandpa in his workshop while Melissa complained about the heat. I found out the truth 2 days before the funeral. I drove 8 hours to visit them at the care facility Melissa told me about. The address didn't exist, so I drove to the old ranch instead. Grandma answered the door. She looked at me like I was a ghost. "You finally decided to show up?" Her voice cut right through me. I was confused. "What do you mean?" "I've been trying to visit for months." She handed me a notepad with Grandpa's handwriting, a phone number he'd been calling over and over during his last weeks. "It wasn't mine. Not even close. They told us you changed your number," she said quietly. "That you didn't want to be bothered anymore." My stomach dropped. "Grandma, I've had the same number since high school." Her face went pale. "They told us you were ashamed of us, that you had a new life and we didn't fit into it." I started shaking. "Who told you that?" "Your mother and Melissa. They'd cut me off completely. Told my grandparents I didn't care. Told me they were unreachable, and I'd believed them because I thought family didn't lie about things like that." When Grandpa died, my parents texted me the funeral was at 1 p.m. I showed up to an empty church at 12:45 dressed in black holding flowers. A janitor told me the service had ended 3 hours ago. They'd lied about that too. At the will reading, the family lawyer had us all gather in his office. Mom smiled. Dad had his serious business face on. Melissa kept checking her phone board. The lawyer started reading to Melissa. The summer house in Colorado, the investment portfolio, Grandpa had built over 40 years and $10 million in liquid assets. Melissa squealed. Mom actually clapped, and the lawyer looked at me. There was a long pause. My dad leaned back in his chair and said, "You're the smart one, Elena. You'll figure it out." That was it. That was my inheritance. A condescending comment, and nothing else. I stood up to leave. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. "Actually, there's a second document sealed to be read only in the presence of all immediate family members." Mom's smile faltered. "What second document?" The lawyer pulled out a thick manila envelope with my name on it. Inside was a deed, a letter, and a financial statement. He read aloud, "My granddaughter Elena, I leave the newly constructed research facility at 482 Pine Ridge Lane, including all laboratory equipment, patents, and intellectual property. Additionally, a $15 million endowment to fund continued operations and research." The room went dead silent. Melissa's mouth fell open. "Wait, what facility?" "He built it last year," the lawyer said calmly. 40 acres. Fully operational. Registered under a private trust. My hands were shaking. I didn't even know this place existed. Then he read Grandpa's letter to my little scientist, who they tried to make invisible. "This facility holds all 47 of my patents, including the water filtration system your mother and sister have been licensing illegally for the past 2 years." The lawyer pulled out another document. "They've collected over $8 million in royalties using your grandfather's forged signature." My dad's face went sheet white as the lawyer reached for his phone to dial. Mom lunged across the table. Wait, let's just talk about this." Her hand shot out trying to grab the phone from the lawyer's grip. He pulled it back smoothly, like he'd been expecting exactly this reaction. Dad stood up fast and grabbed Mom's arm, yanking her back into her chair. "Diane, sit down," he hissed. "Just stay calm. We can work this out." The lawyer already had the phone to his ear. "Yes, I need to report patent fraud and forgery." His voice was steady and professional, like he did this every day. Mom's face went from red to white in about 2 seconds. Melissa started crying, these loud, ugly sobs that filled the whole office. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I swear I didn't know the signatures were fake." I just sat there honestly, trying to process what was happening. The lawyer was talking to someone about fraud divisions and federal crimes, while my mother looked like she might actually throw up. Dad kept whispering frantically to her, but she wasn't listening. She just stared at the phone in the lawyer's hand like it was a weapon pointed at her head. When the lawyer hung up, I found my voice. "I want to see everything. All the documentation of these patent deals." My hands were shaking, so I pressed them flat against the table. Every single contract, every signature, all of it. The lawyer nodded and pulled out this massive file from under his desk. He must have had it ready the whole time. He spread the papers across the table in front of me. "Your mother signed contracts as the estate executor starting 3 months before your grandfather even died. She used a power of attorney that he never actually granted her. 3 months before?" I looked at Mom. "He wasn't even sick 3 months before he died." Mom finally looked at me. Her eyes were desperate. "Elena, sweetheart, listen, we can fix this. I'll split the royalty money with you, okay? $4 million each. You don't need to press charges. We're family." Something in me just snapped. "Family? You kept me away from my grandparents for 3 years. You lied to them about me. You lied to me about them. Grandpa died thinking I didn't care about him because of you." "That's not," Mom started. "Tell him to file the complaints," I said to the lawyer, cutting her off. "Fraud, forgery, Identity theft. All of it. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "Diane, I told you," he said, his voice getting loud. "I told you not to touch those patents. I said leave them alone, but you wouldn't listen." He looked at the lawyer. "I wanted on record that I advised against this multiple times. I have emails. I can testify. I had no part in the actual forgery." Mom's head whipped around to stare at him. "Are you serious right now, Richard? I'm not going to prison for your scam," Dad shot back. The family unity lasted like 5 whole minutes after the truth came out. Melissa was still crying, but now she was talking through the sobs. Mom said it was technically our inheritance anyway. She said Grandpa wasn't thinking clearly anymore, that he didn't really understand what he was signing. The lawyer pulled out another file. This one looked like medical records. "Your grandfather underwent a full cognitive evaluation 1 month before his death as part of updating his estate plan. He scored perfectly on every metric. He was completely lucid and mentally competent until the day he died." He slid the papers toward Melissa. "So that defense won't work." I stood up. I couldn't be in that room anymore with these people who I thought I knew but apparently never did. "I need the address of this research facility." The lawyer wrote it down on his business card and handed it to me. "The property manager has been expecting you. He has your keys." I walked out. Behind me, I could hear Mom starting to argue with Dad and Melissa still sobbing, but I just kept walking. Out of the office, down the stairs, into my car. My hands were shaking so bad it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. The facility was about 40 minutes outside the city. I drove in complete silence. No music, no radio, just the sound of my breathing and my brain trying to catch up with everything that had just happened. When I pulled up to the address, I actually thought I'd written it down wrong. It was this beautiful modern building with huge windows and solar panels on the roof. There was a bronze plaque by the entrance with Grandpa's full name and the dates of his life. A guy in his 50s came out before I even got to the door. "Elena? I'm James, the property manager. Your grandfather told me you'd be coming eventually." He handed me a set of keys and this thick folder. "Everything you need to know is in here. Contracts, employee information, equipment lists. The lab has been maintained exactly as he specified." I followed him inside, and honestly, guys, I almost started crying right there. The front area had photos on the walls, pictures of Grandpa in his workshop, some of his early patents blown up and framed. Further in, there were actual laboratories with equipment that looked like it cost more than my apartment. Everything was pristine and organized. Then James opened a door at the end of the hall, and I saw it. The workshop. It was identical to the one at the ranch house. Same workbench setup, same tool organization system, even the same type of stool Grandpa used to sit on. There was a computer on the desk, and James gestured to it. "He left something for you. Said you'd understand when to watch it." After James left, I sat down and opened the computer. There was one file on the desktop labeled, "For Elena." I clicked it. Grandpa's face filled the screen. This was recorded maybe 2 months before he died based on how he looked. He was sitting in this exact workshop. "Elena," he said, and his voice cracked a little. "If you're watching this, then I'm gone." And the will reading happened the way I thought it would. "Your mother showed her true colors, didn't she?" He smiled sadly. "I need you to know something. I caught her copying my patent files about 5 years ago. Came home early one day and found her in my office with all my filing cabinets open. She made up some excuse about organizing them for me, but I knew. I've known your mother a long time, sweetheart." He shifted in his chair. "So I played along. Let her think she'd gotten away with it. Meanwhile, I was working with my lawyer to lock everything down in your name through an irrevocable trust. Everything in this facility, all the patents, all the research. It's been legally yours for 3 years. She was forging signatures on documents she didn't even have the legal right to, selling licenses for patents she never controlled. She literally stole from you, not from me." The video kept going. Grandpa explained how he'd built this facility specifically because he knew Mom would try to contest the will. He knew she'd find a way to claim the ranch house and everything in it, so he made sure the things that really mattered were somewhere she couldn't touch. He talked about how much he loved our summer workshops, how proud he was that I'd stuck with engineering despite Mom constantly telling me it wasn't feminine enough or practical enough or whatever her complaint of the week was. "I'm sorry I won't be there to see what you do with this place," he said at the end. "But I know it'll be something good. You've got that spark, Elena. That curiosity. Don't let anyone dim it. And don't feel guilty about what's going to happen to your mother. She made her choices. You make yours." Then the video ended. I sat there for probably 20 minutes just staring at the blank screen. There was a knock at the workshop door. I turned around and Grandma was standing there. She walked in and hugged me without saying anything for a long moment. "You knew about all this," I said finally. "I knew he was building something for you. He swore me to secrecy because he knew I can't lie worth a damn, and your mother would have figured it out if I'd known the details." She sat down on the other stool. "But I knew enough. I knew why we let her think she was getting away with stealing. Hardest thing I ever did was watching that woman manipulate you while acting innocent. Why didn't you just tell me what was happening? Because your grandfather wanted proof. Wanted her to commit fully to the fraud so there'd be no talking her way out of it. If we'd warned you, you might have confronted her and she would have backed off, covered her tracks. This way there's documentation, witnesses, everything needed to make sure she faces real consequences." Grandma pulled out a list from her purse. It was handwritten in Grandpa's neat print. These are all the companies currently using the patents under licenses your mother sold them. He kept track of everything. I looked at the list. There were 11 companies on there. Some I'd heard of. Big ones. What do I do with this? Whatever you think is right, Grandma said. But they should probably know the licenses they bought were fraudulent. The next few days were a blur. I contacted every single company on that list. Most of them panicked immediately when I explained the situation and sent them the legal documentation proving Mom had no authority to license those patents. 3 companies got aggressive, threatening to sue Mom and Melissa for the money they'd paid for the licenses. I told them to get in line because apparently fraud victims can form quite a queue. Mom started calling me constantly. I watched the voicemails pile up but didn't listen to them at first. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. The first few were apologies. Elena, honey, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Let's fix this as a family. Then they shifted to threats. You realize you're destroying this family over money? Grandpa would be ashamed of you. I'll claim elder abuse. I'll say he wasn't competent when he signed those trust documents. Then back to begging. Please, Elena, remember family loyalty. Remember everything I've done for you. Don't let them arrest your own mother. I blocked her number after that. Same day, 2 FBI agents showed up at my apartment. Special agents Kim and Okafor. They were polite, but serious. They asked about the patent fraud case and I told them everything. Showed them the files the lawyer had given me, the video from Grandpa, the list of companies, all of it. Agent Kim wrote everything down in this little notebook. Miss Elena, I need to inform you that this case has federal jurisdiction due to wire fraud across state lines. The amounts involved and the number of transactions trigger multiple federal statutes. Okay, I said, not really sure what that meant for me. Agent Okafor leaned forward. It means this is bigger than just your family situation. Your mother's been running this scheme for a while. We've been building a case against her for about 8 months. That stopped me cold. Another victim filed a complaint last year. A widow whose husband's medical patents were being licensed under forged signatures. The patterns matched. And when we started investigating, your mother's name came up connected to similar situations. We've identified at least 6 families she's targeted over the past decade. I felt sick. How much money are we talking about? Based on what we've traced so far, nearly $20 million total from various licensing deals. Your family's case is actually the most recent one. Agent Kim closed her notebook. We need everything you can give us. The more evidence we have, the stronger the case. I gave them everything. The lawyer had been thorough. There were bank statements showing deposits, emails between Mom and various patent offices, contracts with her forged signatures next to scanned copies of the real signatures for comparison. Agent Okafor actually whistled when he saw how organized it all was. Your grandfather documented everything. He was an engineer, I said. Details matter. They were at my apartment for 3 hours going through everything. When they left, Agent Kim handed me her card. If your mother or anyone in your family contacts you trying to discuss the case, don't engage. And if they threaten you or try to intimidate you, call us immediately. 2 days later, Melissa showed up at my apartment at almost midnight. I heard pounding on the door and looked through the peephole to see her crying with mascara running down her face. She was drunk. Really drunk. I almost didn't open the door, but something in her expression looked broken in a way I'd never seen before. Elena, please, she said when I opened the door. Please, I need to talk to you. I let her in. She collapsed onto my couch and just sobbed for a while. I made coffee, because I didn't know what else to do. Finally, she started talking. Mom made me help her. Melissa said, 3 years ago when you started asking questions about visiting Grandma and Grandpa, Mom said if I didn't back up her story about the nursing home, she'd cut me off completely. No more money, no more apartment, nothing. I was scared. You could have told me the truth. I know. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I know I should have, but you don't understand what it's like with her. She's been controlling everything about my life since I was a kid. Who I dated, what I studied, where I worked. I've never made a decision without her approval. And the threat of losing that security, it terrified me. I handed her the coffee. She took it with shaking hands. She has money hidden, Melissa said suddenly. Offshore accounts. She moved like $5 million last year to banks in the Cayman Islands and Switzerland. She told me she was setting up our future, making sure the family would be taken care of. I thought she meant inheritance planning or whatever, but now I know she was preparing for when this all came out. Melissa, why are you telling me this? Because I'm done. She looked at me with bloodshot eyes. I'm done being her puppet. I'm done lying. The FBI talked to me today. They said they're offering me immunity if I cooperate fully. If I give them everything I know about what Mom did. She pulled papers out of her purse. I brought these. Account numbers, transfer records, emails between Mom and some shady lawyers discussing how to forge documents. Everything I could find. I stared at the papers spread across my coffee table. If you give these to the FBI, Mom will never forgive you. Good, Melissa said. Maybe that means I'll finally be free. I grabbed my phone and started recording. Say all that again. Everything about the offshore accounts and Mom pressuring you. She did. Melissa talked for almost an hour while I recorded everything on my phone. She gave me account numbers, dates of transfers, names of lawyers Mom had consulted with about estate fraud. She admitted Mom had been planning this since Grandpa's first cancer scare 6 years ago. They'd been waiting for him to die so they could swoop in and claim everything. The next morning, I called Agent Kim and told her I had new evidence. She and Agent Okafor came to my apartment within 2 hours. When I played them the recording and showed them Melissa's documents, Agent Kim actually smiled. This is exactly what we needed. The offshore accounts especially. We knew she had hidden assets, but we couldn't locate them. Melissa wants immunity in exchange for testifying against our mother, I said. Agent Okafor nodded. We can arrange that. She'd have to agree to full cooperation. Depositions, testimony, everything. No holding back. She'll do it, I said. And I believed that. For the first time in her life, Melissa was choosing something for herself, instead of doing what Mom wanted. The agents left to make arrangements. Melissa stayed at my apartment. She was too scared to go home, terrified Mom would figure out what she'd done. I set her up in my spare bedroom. That night she asked me, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me for lying to you?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. I don't know. Maybe eventually. But right now, I'm just trying to get through this. That's fair, she said quietly. The next day, the news exploded. Mom was arrested at her house during this fancy lunch party she was throwing for her country club friends. Apparently, the FBI wanted maximum impact. They showed up with a warrant while she had 12 women sitting in her dining room eating expensive salads and drinking wine. The humiliation was public and complete. By evening, it was all over the local news. Prominent socialite arrested for fraud, identity theft, and forgery. Dad filed for divorce that same afternoon. His lawyer released a statement claiming Dad was also a victim of Mom's deception. I called Grandma and she actually laughed when I told her. Richard's trying to save himself. He knew what Diane was doing. He just didn't have the spine to stop her. Now he's pretending he's innocent. But honestly, at that point I didn't care about Dad's legal strategy. I had other things to focus on, like the research facility and figuring out what Grandpa had actually been working on. I started spending my days there, going through files and talking to the staff. That's when I learned Grandpa had hired 3 scientists before he died. Dr. Hayes, the lead researcher, was in her 40s with a PhD in environmental engineering. Dr. Patel specialized in water purification systems, and Dr. Jennifer worked on materials science. They'd been continuing Grandpa's work on advanced water filtration technology. "We've been working without pay for 2 months, Dr. Hayes told me in the conference room. She looked exhausted. The endowment account was frozen during estate processing. We kept coming in because we believed in the work, but honestly, we were about to start looking for other jobs. Why didn't anyone tell me? We didn't know who you were until you showed up, Doctor." Patel said, "Your grandfather mentioned having a granddaughter interested in engineering, but he never gave us contact information. After he died, we couldn't reach anyone in the family who'd talk to us about funding. I immediately called the lawyer and authorized back pay for all 3 scientists. Plus, I set up ongoing salaries from the endowment fund." Their relief was visible. Dr. Hayes actually teared up a little. "Thank you," she said. "You have no idea what this means. We've been developing some really promising innovations in the filtration systems. Your grandfather was brilliant, but we've taken his designs even further." "Show me," I said. They did. The next 3 hours were basically a crash course in advanced water purification technology. Grandpa had developed a system using a specialized membrane that could filter out contaminants at a molecular level while being energy efficient enough to run on solar power. The team had refined the design, reducing production costs by 40% and improving filtration efficiency. They had 2 new innovations ready for patent filing. "We also have these pending contracts," Dr. Hayes said, pulling out folders. 2 humanitarian organizations want to deploy the systems in developing regions. Your grandfather negotiated these deals, but he died before signing anything. I looked through the contracts. They were heavily favorable to us with ongoing royalty percentages that could generate around $3 million annually if everything went according to plan. "These look good," I said. "Let's sign them." We officially launched commercial operations that week. The facility that I didn't even know existed a month ago was now becoming a real business. It was overwhelming but also kind of incredible. I was doing exactly what Grandpa had hoped I'd do. Meanwhile, the legal situation with Mom kept escalating. Her lawyer contacted me trying to arrange a plea deal. Mom would plead guilty to reduce charges if I agreed not to pursue civil damages. The prosecutor called me to discuss it. "You could potentially recover the full $20 million plus punitive damages if you file a civil lawsuit," he explained. "The criminal case is solid, but the civil case is where you'd see financial recovery. What happens if I accept the plea deal? She'd likely get a lighter sentence, maybe 5 to 8 years instead of 15 to 20, but you'd be giving up your right to sue her for damages." I thought about Grandpa's video, about his voice telling me not to feel guilty about the consequences of Mom's choices. "No deal," I said. "I'm filing the civil lawsuit." My lawyer drew up papers seeking $50 million in damages, triple the amount Mom stole under fraud statutes. The case started attracting attention from legal journals and websites that cover estate fraud. Reporters started calling me, but I didn't talk to any of them. I just focused on the facility and let my lawyer handle the media. Dad tried to reach out through Grandma. He wanted to apologize, apparently. Wanted to meet and talk. Grandma warned me before passing along his message. "He's really trying to negotiate keeping the house. It's in your mother's name, but he still lives there and doesn't want to lose it. Tell him I'm not interested in meeting," I said. Already did, Grandma replied. Just wanted you to know he tried. The court started seizing Mom's assets. The house, the cars, her investment accounts, everything. It would all go toward restitution if I won the civil case. Dad had to move out. Grandma told me he was living in a rental apartment now and had lost his job because his firm didn't want the negative publicity of employing the husband of an infamous fraudster. Melissa started therapy. She was staying in my spare bedroom semi-permanently at that point, trying to rebuild her life. She got a job at a coffee shop because she needed to work for the first time in her life. Mom had always just given her money. One night she came home and showed me her first paycheck. $247 for a week of work, she said. This is what real people live on? Welcome to reality, I said, but not unkindly. She started helping out at the facility too, doing administrative work, organizing files, managing communications with the companies we had contracts with. She was actually good at it, competent and detail-oriented when she wasn't being Mom's puppet. I found more emails, she told me one day. She'd been going through old files on her laptop. Between Mom and these lawyers discussing how to target other families, there are at least 6 other victims mentioned by name. The FBI had said the same thing. 5 other victims had been identified. I asked Melissa if she knew any of them. One of them, she said, Mrs. Grayson. Her husband died like 4 years ago. He had patents for medical devices. Mom became friends with her at some charity thing, got invited to the house, gained her trust. Then she convinced Mrs. Grayson to let her help manage the estate and started forging signatures on patent licenses. That's sociopathic. Yeah, Melissa said quietly. I know. Mom's trial date got set for 3 months out. Her original lawyer withdrew from the case after discovering she'd lied about the offshore accounts. She had to use a public defender because all her money was frozen. I heard through Grandma that she was losing her mind in lockup, demanding to see her lawyer every day, writing letters to everyone she'd ever known asking for help. At the facility, things were moving fast. The first water filtration systems were deployed to a region in East Africa with contaminated water supplies. Dr. Hayes flew out to oversee the installation. She called me from there, so excited she could barely talk coherently. Elena, it's working perfectly. We're serving 50,000 people with clean water. Do you understand how huge this is? I did. Sitting in Grandpa's workshop looking at his tools, I understood exactly what he'd been working toward. This wasn't just about patents or money. It was about using engineering to solve real problems for real people. A letter arrived at my apartment. It was from a woman named Mrs. Grayson, one of Mom's other victims. She thanked me for exposing the scheme and asked if we could meet. I called her and we set up coffee. Mrs. Grayson was in her 60s, elegant in a way my mom had always tried to be but never quite achieved. Your mother befriended me after my husband died, she told me. I was lonely and grieving. She seemed so kind, so helpful. She offered to help me understand Edward's patents, said she had experience with intellectual property from her own father's work. I trusted her completely. How much did she steal from you? $2.7 million over 3 years. Mrs. Grayson stirred her coffee slowly. But it's not really about the money. It's about how she exploited my grief. She knew I was vulnerable and she used that. I met with 3 of the other victims that week. They'd formed a sort of informal support group. They asked me to join, and I did. We shared information about recovering stolen assets and royalties. We talked about the emotional aspects too, about dealing with betrayal from someone you'd trusted. Mom's public defender tried to arrange a meeting between us. Some kind of mother-daughter reconciliation that could influence sentencing, apparently. I told my lawyer to tell them absolutely not. I had nothing to say to her, and I definitely didn't want to hear whatever manipulation she'd cooked up. The facility received an offer from a major corporation. They wanted to license the improved water filtration technology for $12 million upfront plus royalties on every unit sold. My lawyer spent 2 weeks reviewing the contract before I signed it. The money went into the facility's operating fund. I used part of it to establish a scholarship in Grandpa's name for engineering students from low-income backgrounds. Grandma came to the announcement ceremony. She cried through the whole thing. He'd be so proud of you, she told me afterward. This is exactly what he hoped you'd do with his work. The trial finally came. Mom tried to negotiate until the last possible minute, but the prosecutors weren't budging. She ended up pleading guilty to 47 counts of fraud, forgery, and identity theft as part of a deal. 47 counts. 1 for each patent she'd stolen or forged. The sentencing hearing was set for 2 weeks later. The judge allowed victim impact statements. I wrote mine out carefully, practicing it until I could say it without my voice shaking. When the day came, the courtroom was packed. All the other victims were there. Melissa was there. Even Dad showed up, sitting in the back looking uncomfortable. When they called my name, I walked to the front and stood at the podium. Mom was sitting at the defendant's table in this orange jumpsuit. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She didn't look at me. I read my statement. I didn't focus on the money. I talked about the stolen years with my grandparents. I talked about showing up to an empty church for Grandpa's funeral. I talked about the calculated cruelty of making 2 elderly people think their granddaughter had abandoned them. I talked about how many times I'd tried to call, tried to visit, been lied to and redirected and manipulated. My mother didn't just steal money, I said. She stole time. She stole memories I should have had. She stole the chance to say goodbye, and she did it knowingly, deliberately, for years. Not in a moment of weakness or desperation. This was planned. This was systematic. This was who she chose to be. When I finished and walked back to my seat, Mrs. Grayson squeezed my hand. 3 other victims read statements after me. Each one detailed similar stories of manipulation and betrayal. The judge listened to everything. Then she spoke. Mrs. Williams, you exploited vulnerable people during times of grief and confusion. You violated professional trust. You forged documents, committed fraud across state lines, and enriched yourself through calculated deception over many years. The court finds this to be an egregious pattern of criminal behavior deserving significant punishment. She sentenced Mom to 18 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 12 years. 18 years. Mom's face went white. Her public defender said something to her, but she didn't seem to hear him. They let her out, and she still hadn't looked at me once. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. I didn't say anything. Just got in my car and drove back to the facility. Melissa came with me. We sat in the workshop for a while, not talking. 18 years, she said finally. She'll be 72 when she gets out. She made her choices, I said, echoing Grandpa's words. My civil case proceeded separately. Mom's lawyer tried to argue she couldn't pay damages from prison, but my legal team had done their research. We proved the offshore account still had $4.8 million accessible through international court orders. Combined with selling all her seized property and possessions, we recovered $7.2 million total. The other victims split the remaining recovered funds proportionally to what they'd lost. It wasn't the full $20 million she'd stolen, but it was something. More importantly, it meant every dollar Mom had gained from her schemes was taken from her. She'd have nothing when she got out of prison in 18 years. Melissa kept working at the facility. She was good at her job, turns out. She managed the contracts with companies licensing our technology. She handled communications with the humanitarian organizations deploying our filtration systems. She was competent and detail-oriented when she wasn't being controlled by Mom. The scientist team actually liked working with her. One day, a letter arrived at the facility addressed to me. It was from Dad. I almost threw it away without reading it, but Grandma's voice in my head told me I should at least see what he had to say. It was a formal apology letter. He took responsibility for not stopping Mom, for enabling her behavior, for choosing to look the other way because it was easier. He said he didn't expect forgiveness and wasn't asking for anything. He just wanted me to know he regretted his choices. I read it once and filed it away in my desk drawer. I didn't respond. Grandma told me later that Dad had lost his job and was living in a small apartment. Apparently, he'd been blacklisted in his industry because no one wanted to work with someone connected to such a massive fraud case. The facility's technology won an innovation award from an international engineering organization. The ceremony was in Geneva. Dr. Hayes, Dr. Patel, Dr. Jennifer and I all flew out for it. When they called my name to accept the award, I made sure to say it was in honor of my grandfather and his vision for using engineering to solve humanitarian problems. The standing ovation went on for almost 2 minutes. Back home, I kept finding surprises Grandpa had left. One day, I was organizing files in his workshop office and found a leather journal in the bottom drawer of the desk. It was his handwriting, detailed entries about interactions with Mom over the past 20 years, page after page of dated notes about conversations, about things she'd said, about suspicious behavior he'd noticed. The early entries were relatively benign. Concerns about Mom being too focused on money, about her treating Melissa and me differently, about her reaction when he'd refused to lend her money for some investment scheme. But the later entries got darker. He documented the day he caught her copying his patent files. He wrote about confronting her and her denials. He wrote about realizing she was systematically isolating me from the family. There were letters, too. Letters Grandpa had written to me but never sent. Dozens of them over 3 years. He explained his decision to build the facility. He wrote about how proud he was of me staying in engineering despite Mom's constant criticism. He talked about our summer workshop sessions and how much they meant to him. He wrote about seeing qualities in me that reminded him of himself when he was young. That same curiosity, that same determination to understand how things worked. Your mother sees you as competition, one letter said. She always has. You're smarter than her and she knows it. She can't control you the way she controls Melissa. That's why she tried to push you out of the family. But you survived anyway, Elena. You became who you were meant to be despite her best efforts to stop you. I cried reading those letters. Real ugly crying alone in the workshop. All those years I'd felt like I wasn't good enough. Like maybe Mom was right, and I should give up on engineering and do something more practical. And the whole time, Grandpa had been in my corner believing in me, even when I couldn't see him. I had the journal privately published in a limited run, 25 copies total. I kept most of them but sent one to Dad with a note. So you understand why I won't be in contact. I didn't hear back from him, and I didn't expect to. The facility kept expanding. We hired 6 more researchers and doubled our lab space. The water filtration systems were now deployed in 8 countries with contracts pending for 12 more. We were making a real difference. Every month, Dr. Hayes sent me reports with statistics. How many people had access to clean water because of our systems? How many waterborne illnesses had decreased in regions where we'd deployed? How many lives were being saved? That's what Grandpa had really built. Not just a company or a research facility. He'd built a legacy of using intelligence and engineering to solve real problems for real people. and he'd made sure it ended up in the hands of someone who'd respect that vision instead of just seeing dollar signs. One afternoon, I was in the workshop working on designs for a new filtration prototype. Melissa came in with contract papers needing signatures. Some company in South America wanted to license our technology for rural communities without reliable water infrastructure. The contracts were good, fair terms, solid royalty structure. I signed them without hesitation and handed them back to Melissa. She looked at the signatures and smiled a little. "You sign exactly like Grandpa did. Same loops in the E and L. He taught me," I said. Said a signature should be distinctive but readable. Melissa left to process the contracts, and I went back to my prototype. The workshop was quiet except for the soft whir of the ventilation system and the occasional sound of tools against metal. I picked up one of Grandpa's old micrometers, the same one I'd used learning precision measurement when I was 12. It still had his fingerprints smudged on the handle. I got back to work, designing the next system, solving the next problem, continuing exactly what he'd started.